Folks, we're back to Steve Sanchez, Jim Jones of Veterans in Politics. Today we have Frankie Kelly, owner of Kelly Corp Security. Before we get to Mr. Kelly, Jim, you have any rants?
Yep. Just one. Chris Dyer, shut up. I'm good.
Get that? Dyer?
Yeah, this wise guy. He like, here's the thing. Okay, I thought it was done, but I'll make it as brief as I possibly can because this really does irritate me. And it's not even just Chris Dyer. It's people like Chris Dyer. So he has this so-called podcast, right? Mm-hmm. But he doesn't interview anybody, okay? He doesn't talk about anything. What he does is he goes and he watches people that actually do podcasts and interview people, and he nitpicks apart what they do and the different answers.
It's a little bit of a sign of insecurity.
Well, that just drives me absolutely nuts. I almost said hate, but I don't hate him. I'm just saying, I really do not like people that armchair quarterback. It's just like all those idiots on
backseat driver.
Yeah, on Twitter and everything else. They'll sit there and they'll spout their mouths off all day long with their thumbs, but yet when you confront them in person, oh no, you took that out of context or something. Like, look, if you have a problem, have the balls to come in and talk to me.
Yeah.
If you're gonna complain about me and call me all these names, meet me and we'll talk about it.
Some people talking is a lot different. My talking be, I'm gonna smack the small side of the head.
Yeah, no, I just, and I first met the guy in 2008. We actually were pretty good friends. Yeah. So I don't understand what his problem is, but he needs to get over it and shut his mouth.
Well, they say don't throw stones in glass houses. So.
Right, yeah. Well, anyway. Sorry.
That was it.
I didn't mean to take your time.
You're messing with Frankie's time. He got things to do.
Yeah. Sorry about that, but I had to get that off my chest because that burned me up. And I usually don't let people get under my skin, but that did irritate me. Anyway.
Well, Mr. Kelly, how you doing today?
Good.
Thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And I'll let you do your bio.
Essentially, name's Frankie Kelly, owner of Kelly Corp LLC, originally from the state of Jefferson, better known as Northern California. Came out here to start my company so then I can get politics started back in Northern California.
That's your bio?
I mean, went to Iraq, Afghanistan.
Oh, come on. There we go.
I don't know how long you want me to go.
Yeah, but keep going. Yeah. I mean, you own a security company, right?
Yeah.
So people want to know that the person that's running the security company is somebody they want to go to. Come on.
So essentially, after I got out of the Marine Corps and moved back home, was working on the ranch for a little bit, went to college, didn't like college, and then I moved out here. And then I started working for Allied Universal and a few other companies. And every company says, oh, we take care of veterans, when really they're only paying them $12.50 to $15 an hour. So then I went to counterterrorism school, went through bodyguard training. Then I was Phil Collins' wife bodyguard for a year and a half. From there, I took that money and started my company here in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And our veterans starting pay is $20 an hour. Mm-hmm. But the average pay I have is $25 an hour, and the most I've paid for a job is $65 an hour.
So how long were you in the Marine Corps for?
4 years, 2007 to 2011. Went to Iraq, Afghanistan. I was a machine gunner, 0331.
Ground pounder.
Oh, yes, thank goodness, too, because I was with 13 Bravo Company, so I was in a line platoon instead of a weapons platoon, so I didn't get to drive anywhere. I had to walk everywhere.
So what type of fighting do you do?
So I was blessed that I was in the poppy fields, and because I had friends that were in the mountains and my friends in other places that were more urban. And the poppy fields, it was steady fighting, but it wasn't like, oh, shoots, they're so far.
I'm talking about hand-to-hand.
Oh, okay. So I was a wrestler, and I do Muay Thai. I would train at Andrada Muay Thai here in Vegas. And just,
and don't ask me how I know that.
Oh, cauliflower.
Dead giveaway.
Yeah, the cauliflower gives it away.
Mm-hmm. So the security company, tell us a little bit about it.
So essentially,
why are you doing it? When did you get started? Are you airport to airport? Do you never leave your customer, or do you do, or how does it work?
So essentially, we started in January 6th of 2020, and we started with a bodyguard company, but Vegas shut down. So me and my partner, Ronnie Long, he's also a combat veteran too.
Mm-hmm.
We were working jobs ourselves, and then no one had money. So me and him were working for free to keep our word of paying our guys $20 an hour for the past, for a year and a half. And then things started to ease up a little bit.
Right.
And we landed a contract at Allegiant Stadium for the North Gate.
Mm-hmm.
We have this other contract that we basically send 5 to 10 guys across the country servicing machines and doing escorting type stuff.
Okay.
And that's pretty much where we're at right now.
So all your guys are armed?
No, we do armed and unarmed.
So what do you look for when you hire people to work for you?
No ego, humble. If they're veterans, then all of our pay. So essentially why I started too, because I hated the fact that if you have a bad supervisor that doesn't give you any good reviews or you can't move up in the company. There's no retirement. There's nothing that you can go forward with. So our pay scale is all based on your training. So we have our tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1 guys. And so the tier 3 guys, they're basically brand new, never did security before. You're coming through, and we do basically all police report writing, use of force, special needs and disabilities, because you never want, for example, somebody that has dementia and you think that they're on drugs.
What's your use of force policy?
It's same as Metros.
Okay.
Everything goes off of the Metro standard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what we pride ourselves on. So when the police have to show up, our reports look just like theirs. That way they're not standing outside your club or anything else for longer than needs be. Now this year, we're doing a big push to actually start servicing HOAs in communities, because people are having harder times with trespassing, and law enforcement's getting spread thin more and more, and property values are going down. And the way that we can prevent that is our guys going through SELA training, where they can actually write tickets and be able to actually do the trespassing call. So when the law enforcement does come out, they only have to come out once versus twice, because they've officially been trespassed once already.
Right. What's Metro's use of force policy?
The same thing. It's like slow escalation. Like you have to just match their force. You can't go above.
Okay.
So just real quick, on the same thing as far as training, what kind of training do you have as far as de-escalation? Because I know that's one of the things, and I know this is probably way under what your company does, but one of the things that always kind of frustrates me is like when you get security guards in like casinos, whatever, it seems like a lot of them, they escalate the situation more than they de-escalate it.
Yeah, so our whole thing is like, one, you have to see if this person's intoxicated. And if somebody's intoxicated, you can't take anything personal when they say things, because everybody says stupid things when they're intoxicated. And usually you have to try to relate with the person first. Like, oh, hey, what's your problem? Okay, like, how can I help you? Oh, this is your issue? Okay, yeah, come over here. Come talk to me over here to the side. All right. And just actually listening to somebody helps de-escalate many situations. Most of the time, they just want to be heard. And if they can just get all that first initial outburst of anger out with, oh, I'm upset because this person said this to me, or this person treated me this way, such and such and such, they're getting all that out, and it usually can de-escalate the situation. You take it from there.
So what type of what type of certificates and license do you look for when you hire somebody to come on?
Well, for the basic level, all you need is your PLIB card, and you pass your background check and then pass a drug test.
No CCW, no sheriff's card?
So with you don't have to have sheriff's cards, but what we do is if you're going to be a bodyguard, you have to have your CCW. But when we're talking about just the base level of security, you don't have to have your CCW. We always encourage it because I want everybody to carry, to be honest.
Any of your guys open carry that can't get a CCW?
No, because if you can't get a CCW, then you shouldn't be armed, because it's a background check that you have to take.
And what do you authorize a specific type of handguns or what do you authorize? Mace? Do you authorize handcuffs? What are the arrest powers you have? Stuff of that nature.
So essentially, that's all depending on what post you're on and what you're doing.
Okay.
But for example, at Allegiant Stadium, they don't want us having a huge tactical belt, so it's just more customer service. So there's where you're having more communication skills and de-escalation skills. For example, when people don't want to bring, you only can bring a purse that's such a size into the stadium. And that's the one that we have to keep turning people away. Like, hey, sorry, we know you want to bring your purse in, but the rules say you can't bring your purse in. That's the biggest issue that we've had with it.
So what about the arrest powers? Do you have that?
So no, we can't. arrest
You can do
people.
citizens arrest?
But we can do citizens arrest, and that's where the report writing comes in, because then they have to get the witnesses' statements, and that way when the police show up, they already have all that information and they're in and out.
You guys wear body cameras or anything like that?
Not yet, no.
Are you going to do that or no?
We want to. The problem is the storage that you have to space that you have to have for it is something that we're working up to.
How many employees do you have?
We have around 47 employees right now.
All based here?
Yes, all based in Vegas.
So where is your facility located?
Our facility, we just were off of Park Run Drive, but we just got a brand new office that's off of Pecos and can't remember the cross street.
Do you do bodyguards by the day, bodyguards by the week, or do you have a post or facility you go to and do contract work there? How does it work?
No, we're not that big yet. And our big thing is going into these HOAs.
You got 40-something people.
Yeah, and that's for event security, security at the stadium, and things like that. Now, going into this, getting into the HOAs in these communities, our belief is knowing the community is the best way to protect the community.
Right.
So we don't want to change a different guard out every single week. We want to have the same guard there in the community, working with the community, knowing the community, because you'll know all the vehicles. So if you see a vehicle that doesn't belong there, you can go and be like, if the person's sitting in the car, you can just go talk to them. And then if they're shady, they'll leave, or you'll get the information and such like that. And working with it, for example, where we have the scanners, if we get an HOA, we can put scan codes on homes that want to be scanned. And then we can have a log that shows, hey, if my back gate is open, what do you want us to do? When we scan the barcode, it says, if the back gate's open, go ahead and check out the backyard. If it says, if my back gate's open, just close it. That way we're not infringing upon anybody's privacy either, but also giving them the services that they want.
Do you do tactical driving?
Yes, we have that, which goes through CRI.
Okay. How about weapons training?
Yes, we have a whole classes that are built up.
How often do you do that?
So that...
Do you have to be qualified every year?
So if you're an armed guard, you have to qualify twice a year to keep your armed card, essentially. But then we're building a shooting team and tactical team for Kelly Corps. So we're turning it more into a sport. And that way we have people who actually want to go out and do it, who are going to be armed guys, who will be always shooting together and training together.
How about hand-to-hand combat?
Yes, that's...
Do you guys know police codes?
So yeah, they have... What we're doing is we're getting the new police codes that are coming out, and we study criminal law also. For example...
So you guys do study the criminal law?
Yeah, because for example, a lot of people think that assault is touching... Yeah, that's the most important. And that's where the politics is in Northern California that needs to come back. But what was your question again?
I forget. I have short-term memory.
Well, it's more just like, so when you talk about use of force, and he said it's the same as metros, but like some people don't understand, like there's a big debate, especially after what happened with, I forget his first name, but his last name was Floyd. Well, Stanley Gibson, that was the shoot. But as far as like, you know, what kind of chokeholds are authorized,
so that's
things of that nature.
So that's where we're a big proponent of wrestling and jiu-jitsu and knowing how to actually move the body. So that's where our training comes in. If somebody doesn't know how to actually grapple, they're not going to be put in those positions. If somebody doesn't go through our training and get to that tier 2 to tier 3 level, they're just going to be working at the Legion Stadium at the front gate, doing the customer service until they go through the training level to get that pay.
Get security pay, not protection pay.
That's exactly it. There's a difference between... So we're trying to elevate the qualifications of security, and that's throwing into the grappling, throwing into the hand-to-hand combatants. And for example, it never is good to beat somebody down. It's always good to restrain somebody in the safest manner possible. You don't want to be... You can't have, for example, that's where we go through with their training. You can see who has an ego, who has a hot temper. You can't have people in positions of security that can't control their emotions. That's where we are a big proponent of stoicism. And if you look at the Kelly Corps site, it's ethical and logical, because every decision you make has to be ethical and logical at the same time.
Do you do knife training?
Yes, but knife training is something that we don't spend a lot of time on.
What weapons that you tell your people not to have, like brass knuckles and
I got nunchucks, or
those batons that extend when you
well,
flick them.
You know, it's funny you bring that up, Steve, because that was the next question I was going to ask is baton use.
Yeah, so we don't have baton use. Batons is more of an actual. That's more of a. It's
there's something like this. You can fold them up to like this, and then when you break them out,
yeah, and you can
with the ball on the end of it.
Yeah,
and it escalates the force. Somebody has to pull a knife on you if you're going to try pulling a baton out, because that's escalating it to deadly force. Yeah. I mean, if it's not a deadly force situation, there should be no reason you pull your baton out. That's why you have everything else. You go through the ASP training.
So at what point do you go hands on?
Oh, if you have to immediately defend yourself or the people you're around.
Okay.
If there's a direct threat a direct life-threatening, the people that are in our direct vicinity or for yourself.
How about mace? Do you guys do that, or pepper spray, or any of that stuff?
And we have the training for it, but it's not necessarily at the stadium.
Do you tell your guys to carry that?
Not at the stadium.
So when you do, I understand the security part. I understand the bodyguard part. I had a bodyguard company years ago. When you do the bodyguard one, is it you go pick them up at the airport and then you're with them 24/7? Is that how you do it, or you're just once in a while as needed? How does that work for you?
It all depends on what the client wants. Each client is different. Some want to.
Do you do airport to airport? That means you never.
We have
leave
the capabilities to do it, but like I said, after the lockdowns, our bodyguard company, we stopped. We went to basic security. That way, what I realized is we want to build the best basic security, from patrolling to event security to working at the stadium, to be able to afford an actual full-time EP team I can put on salary. So when there is no clients, they're training. Mm-hmm. Because you started a bodyguard company, so you can know EP work comes and goes. It's not typically a steady thing. So I don't want to give somebody a job, but then next month they don't. So right now we're building the foundations to be able to do those things.
I lost it when I ended up in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Intoxicated with weapons.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, I'll do it. But what I was going to ask you, how about vests? You guys wear vests?
Yes. So we actually just got our company on the list for Safe Life Defense, where our guys can get their vests for 10% off.
Okay. And what do you look for in a client? Because I'm sure you interview a client before you take them on. What do you look for?
Well, I look how much it's going to raise my insurance and if it's worth it.
It's funny because my next question, you're good, because my next question was insurance liability.
Yeah, insurance it determines everything. I can't ever say, oh, it's going to cost this much. Even with HOAs or any lounge or anything that we get. For example, we don't do bars. Insurance is way too high. It's not worth it. Because if me putting somebody there and what the bar wants to pay, I'm not going to pay somebody $12.50 an hour to work at a bar. That's just, who's going to do that? You're going to have call-offs and you're going to have new employees every week, and you're not going to get what you want. So I have no problem saying no to work.
So what do you, let's say somebody wants to call you up, hey, Frankie, I'm going out. I need a bodyguard. Could you have them come by my house? And I want them to follow me the entire night.
Is it a repeat customer or a new customer?
New customer.
No.
You won't do that?
No.
Why not?
How am I supposed to get my insurance quote?
True. Okay. All right. So do you, all right, let's say a new customer a guy wants to be a customer of yours.
Yeah.
I mean, so they got to call you ahead of time?
Yes.
And okay. So how much ahead of time do they have to call?
I would like at least a week, so I get my insurance time to actually process everything.
And when you say your insurance, what do? You tell your insurance. What kind of questions does your insurance company ask you, anyways?
He's going to ask like who it is, what industry are they in, what do they want to do, how long is this going to go on, and things like that. The reason that we cut out all of bodyguard stuff is because the insurance can't justify it and the work's not steady enough to do it. Therefore, we're just building our foundation.
I see.
Because I'm assuming when you give those answers to the insurance company, they must have some process in order to where they do an overall threat assessment of like, hey, what's our liability in this? What's the likelihood of us having to pay out a claim?
That's exactly it. And so the bigger the risk, the more it's going to cost an insurance. And say, hey, it's only going to be a client for one night. Well, my insurance is going to look at it and be like, well, we don't want to, it's not going to make sense for us to cover you because this isn't going to be a long time client, because this is just going to be a one night gig. And so trying to get them to be like, hey, can you just spot me for this night? They're going to be like, no, unless I already have a client list already built up and a reputation already built with the insurance companies to actually do that type of work.
Gotcha. Jim, you have anything else for Mr. Kelly?
No, not really. I just I've dealt with security companies a lot when I worked like just in a grocery store. There were some grocery stores I worked in, and they were in kind of rougher neighborhoods. It was, I think the name of it was like Guardian. They did a good job, but basically they just posted up at the door, and it was more like just observe and report.
Yeah.
Type stuff. Do you guys do anything like that, or just the stadium right now?
We just do the stadium. We also have a luminarium that's right across from Area 15, that lounge.
Oh, okay.
Is that a hookah lounge?
No, it's more of like, it's really rad. You
Is
go
it a
into
cannabis lounge?
No, it's not. Essentially, you go in and they can put the galaxy on this room all across the entire thing, or flowers or the jungle and everything. And with the flower one they have, they release scents too. It's more of like, I don't even know how I would describe it. Just imagine seeing the galaxy in this room right here and able to order drinks.
Yeah, it's almost like a high-tech planetarium type thing.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, right? It's an interesting place. It's really rad.
So how long is somebody supposed to stay? You tell your people don't drink from this time before you go to work, 12 hours before you go on. I mean, do you have a regulation like that?
Yeah,
a policy or something?
You can't drink within 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kelly, is there anything else you want to talk about your company or that we haven't covered?
No, I would love to talk about the state of Jefferson in Northern California and the politics there, though.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting subject because the only reason why I know a little about the state of Jefferson is because I was watching a history thing on the 50 states. Mm-hmm. But then they also had there's a couple other in the state of Jefferson was one of them. And then there's a couple other states that aren't states that just anymore that just got absorbed in other states. So what exactly is the state of Jefferson?
So essentially, we've been trying to do it since 1941.
Yeah.
And it's Southern Oregon and Northern California combining to become a state. And for example, Sacramento isn't Northern California where I'm from. We don't consider Sacramento Northern. They can claim Middle or Southern California, but the way their politics line up, it has nothing to do with us. And the problem is my town had about 500 people in it. It was a major logging town. And then California decided to pass this law like, oh, you can no longer do this forest management. You can no longer log. And my town went from over 500 people to now it's less than 100 people. And it's only due to the regulations, and it's always on fire because of it. Because what happens is they don't understand is these big trees block small trees from getting light. Yeah. And when that happens, those small trees die and you get these huge brush piles that come up because those trees are made to survive wildfires. And then it just ends up burning the whole thing. The problem is where I'm from, Pasquina, we have 3 fire crews down there. The last time that place started catching fire, they sent all 3 fire crews down south. And so we pay taxes to the state, but the state never fixes our roads. The state shut down our school funding 3 years ago. So there's no incentivizing for anything. And have you seen the price of lumber?
I'm trying to figure out how do we go from security.
He just said
you asked me what I want to talk about, and that's really what I want to talk about.
I was trying to stay on topic.
Well, this is a topic I really wanted to talk about here.
That's another show.
Because that's what's more important.
Fun facts. So
but going to what you're saying, like where did it come from? It came from you have Sacramento, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, and Oakland absorbing all the resources, and us getting nothing. So when we give 100% of our taxes to California, we're not getting any pennies back. They don't come fix our roads. They take our fire crews. They shut down our schools. And that's where I came out here to start Kelly Corps, to be able to build a foundation so I can afford to go and to get the politics into there. And then get Pasquina, have our actual government set up. And for example, the county just cut the funding for our sheriff's department. Mm-hmm. And our sheriff's department is already 45 minutes away that they can't come out and service us to begin with. Yeah. And so what we want to do is take our property taxes and pay it directly to the sheriff's department so they can deputize us, oversee our elections, and then we can become a sanctuary city from California's taxation and regulations. So it can bring back the logging, bring back industry, because a lot of people love Northern California because it's beautiful, but you can't do anything because they said people who don't live on the land are telling you you can't do something.
Is this like Texas trying to move away from the Union?
No, so we're super proud to be Americans. All we want to do is be like, hey, stop taking all of our money and giving us nothing for it. Stop telling me, hey, you guys can't build a store out here because, you don't have the zoning. Well, who are you to tell us what to do on land you don't live on? Mm-hmm. If you lived here, then okay, you can go ahead and come and show up and tell us something. But when you don't live in an area, you have no right to tell somebody else how to live. For example, look at all the gun laws that come out there. Like my grandma is 79 years old, throwing 50-pound hay bales still, working cows and for the Forest Service. Mm-hmm. And they want to tell her that she can't have like an AR. Well, they'd never seen a pack of like 35 wild hogs running around. There's no law enforcement out there to protect yourself. And I use sheep, for example, because we run cattle and sheep. Mm-hmm. We have these Great Pyrenees dogs that hang out with our sheep. If we take those, because they scare the coyotes away. If we take those sheep dogs away, those coyotes come running in. If they take our guns away, then we're just going to get overrun with crime and everything out there. And so what we want to basically do is form like a coalition of not becoming our own state, just having our separate jurisdiction of saying, hey, from here on, we're going to do our own thing. And how we want to do it is essentially say, yeah, Pasquina, we get this going, we're a sanctuary city from these things. And the way we want to organize the government is you either have to pay $200 flat tax for the city, a city tax, or you can do 20 hours of community service, and that automatically makes you a House representative. Therefore, only the people who are paying taxes or working for the city can have a say what goes on into the city. And then the city council will basically be like the Senate, and then you'll have a triumvirate because not one person knows anything. So if you have 3 people at the top, the 3 most popular, you don't have a 2-party system, and you have all 3 voices can be heard that come out of it. And now say you have Corning's like, hey, Pasquina, we like what you have going on. We want to join you.
Tie this in with your company.
Essentially, my company is building a foundation so I can go and buy more land, build veteran housing, repopulate my city, get infrastructure built, and give me the time that I can go to all these cities and tell them, hey, like, stop doing this. They're not giving you anything. Mm-hmm. Like, why don't you come and you do this, set up your own local thing? It's basically going to be like a city-state model, but everything's based off the Constitution. And that way you can have, example, say you have 3 cities that are part of this. And 2 cities want universal health care because the idea is you take 5% of your overall city tax, you put it in the county for roads, emergency, and all that stuff. And they say, hey, if we all donate 8% instead of 5%, we can have universal health care. But say one city doesn't want to do it. Those 2 cities can't force that city to pay a tax or be part of their program. Those 2 cities can do it on their own, but you can't tell somebody what to do on land you don't live on or with the money that you don't provide to their city.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah. And, sorry, I watched that episode and they explained it.
Yeah, it almost happened in 1941. Then Pearl Harbor happened.
Yeah.
And that's been for example, look at the East Coast. Those states are tiny. They're tiny for a reason because guess what? None of them can get along when they started founding. That's why you have such a huge problem on the West Coast. I mean, look at the Greater Idaho movement, where those like 30% of counties in Southern Oregon.
California and Texas get along with everybody then, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what everybody says when they come up to Northern California. Our attitudes are just like people from Texas. I mean, we still hold the doors open for people.
It's like, it is literally like going into a different state. When you get into like, I had a buddy of mine graduated from Humboldt State.
Oh, okay.
Totally different world than what you would consider California, man.
Yeah, and because we're all self-sufficient, we're all ranchers, and we're not so condensed in population. And I can understand why some of these big cities want these rules, but they shouldn't be able to make rules for everybody else, especially when they don't have to deal with what we're doing. Like I said, California's policies directly destroyed my hometown. I mean, my dad was a logger, loved logging, and then they shut that down.
About running for office here? You thinking about that?
I don't want to run for office in Vegas because I don't think I can accomplish much. But if I can go out to Pasquina and get this going, and I can show like, hey, listen, if you're a small city and all your resources keep getting sucked from you, and all these major cities keep absorbing everything from you, like do what they do, like claim sanctuary city status, to claim, form your local government, get your sheriffs on board, because sheriffs are the law of the land. Like those are the ones that can protect you from everything. When this whole COVID thing happened and the county in Northern California, tried putting all these regulations, our sheriff just laughed in their face and said, we're not enforcing any of that. And that's what I want to give, is power back to the cities versus being like, oh, hey, look, we're going to give our money to people who don't even have anything to do with us and follow all the laws and all the jurisdictions when all they do is hurt us.
Well, Mr. Kelly, this has been a very interesting show, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry you wanted me to talk about security and everything, but I was looking to talk about.
I was like, where's he going with this?
Well, the show is Veteran in Politics, so I was actually prepped for this type of conversation, not the security type of conversation. So I was like, when you started asking me security questions, I was like, wait, I wasn't ready for this type of conversation. I was ready to talk about politics.
Did you see what I sent you?
Yeah, you just see my phone, it blows up constantly.
Well, Mr. Kelly, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your service. Mark is going to zoom in on you. You have the final word, whatever you want to say, and maybe get people to come to Kelly Court.
Well, in Kelly Court, we believe in knowing the community is the best way to protect the community. And we pride ourselves in our training, and that's pretty much it.
You got a website?
Contact number, website?
Our website's Kelly Court LLC. Contact number, it's on the website.
He's trying to drive traffic to the website. Well, again, Frankie Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jim, thanks for coming on. Thanks for always being there with me. Folks, that's Frankie Kelly, owner of Kelly Core Security Firm. And you know what? Pay attention to this guy, because I think this guy is going to pop up to some political newspaper somewhere. This is Steve Sanderson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.